This man is a serial rapist, and he vows that he will rape and kill again. You kill somebody and then you go home and do what?
You just let it go.
Eastern Michigan in the spring of '92 is in the grip of fear.
People were on edge. They were upset. The disbelief of how this could have happened.
4 teenage girls have disappeared.
I remember saying, "What do you mean, abducted? What does that mean?"
From a 20-mile area.
No one could disappear that clean. For lack of any other term, she just vanished.
Local police, along with the FBI,
we orchestrated a huge search, and it all came up negative.
race against time to find them.
We just couldn't see the pattern that fit.
Before another family loses their child.
Hard to imagine. Our children are missing.
Just inland from the shores of Lake Erie, on the outskirts of Detroit, lies the idyllic township of Milford. Everyone knows their neighbors. Doors are left unlocked, and the crime rate has always been low. That's what drew Alana Heft and her 5 children here.
Milford was very nice. There were fun things like parades, 4th of July, Memorial Day. It was a good place to raise your kids.
After a tough breakup and custody battle, Alana is now a single mom who works 80 hours a week to give her kids the best life she can. She wouldn't have coped without the help of her oldest, 15-year-old Cynthia, known as Cindy.
She was a pretty girl. She liked gymnastics. She was part of the marching band. She was smart. She was fun. She was very capable. You didn't have to ask Cindy.
Okay, won't be long.
Cindy just jumped in where she saw it was needed.
But Cindy is growing up, and for 6 months now has been dating 16-year-old Luke.
See you.
Luke was all-pro in the sports program at the high school, and she being a cheerleader, the 2 kids really kicked it off. She obviously had a great deal of interest in him. They had good times together. Cindy and Luke asked if they could go out.
Mom? Yep.
And they were going to get a pop and go to the park.
I'll take good care of her, I promise.
And I figured, yeah, okay. I warned them that they needed to keep an eye about themselves and be aware, be careful, because I almost don't want to let you go. So they should have been fine. It isn't the way it panned out.
An hour after the young couple leave, the Milford County Dispatch receives a call.
Go ahead, please. It's my girlfriend. He took my, he did a robbery. He robbed the store or something. He tied himself. I don't know where he robbed. God, Cindy.
This is where homegrown detective Tom Callahan enters the story.
This young person is very upset, very confused.
Hold on, I ran after them, but they just disappeared.
They couldn't get all of the details out of them because they were a little bit disjointed, but it was short pieces of fragmented statements about some kind of a robbery.
I don't know where.
We actually started checking businesses in town that fit the description of that type of a store that may have been robbed, but each one, they knew nothing about what was going on.
Detectives arrive at a local restaurant to interview the young man who made the call.
He took her. I ran after them. I was screaming for them. I was screaming for her. But
He was pretty disheveled, very scattered in his delivery of piecing together what happened.
our friend, we drove to Central Park. robbery.
Slowly, the distraught teen shares his terrifying story. It all began around 7:30 p.m. in Central Park, less than a mile from Cindy's home.
Cindy and Luke decided to go into the park. They sat there and talked for a while.
First 20-yard throw since the game was invented.
And at some point they'd heard voices, so they ducked down. They just didn't want to have any rumors about what was going on, what they were doing in the park.
Freeze! Stay as you are and don't move.
Oh, please, mister.
Quiet! I'm not gonna hurt you. I just need the car.
He said, I just did a robbery and I need your car to get out of town. I'm not going to hurt you.
So get out.
He made sure that they understood that he meant business.
Just take the car and leave us alone.
What? Come on!
And they should do what he said. So they were pretty shaken up.
Stop! I'm going to tie both to this tree and drive away. Comply, and I won't hurt you.
He explained he was going to tie them both up, and then he was going to take their car and leave. He had secured Luke with these thick plastic wire ties. He's telling them it's not going to hurt them, and they're going to both be tied up together.
You're coming with me.
But you said you were going to.
I lied.
No, Cindy! No! Cindy!
He said he was able to snap one of those plastic ties and free himself. He went up and down just running and calling her name.
Cindy! Cindy! Help! I gotta call the cops.
Eventually, he went to the restaurant where he called the police.
So then I ran here to call you guys.
I saw some inconsistencies in some of the things that Luke talked about and the sequence of events that happened that night.
You have to find her.
Simultaneously, the officers had already verified that no businesses had been robbed and no one called back.
Here, just here. He tied me to this tree.
He actually took us to the location where he was tied to the tree with those plastic ties.
He made me put my hands back, but I broke out. He took her that way, through those trees. I couldn't find them.
These things were industrial quality, and they're like restraints that police use, but these were more of a commercial type of plastic tie. They were very strong. How did those things get broken? How did he get free? And trying to duplicate that was very difficult. So was this particular one had a weak spot? Was it the adrenaline? Was it who knows what? But they were broken.
And in the woods, investigators find more evidence that seems to corroborate Luke's story.
There was a set of boot tracks in the mud that led away with a smaller set of tracks, and it appears that that was the offender's boot impressions along with Cindy's.
When the boot marks don't match Luke's sneakers, he is cleared. For now. All the evidence seems to point to a calculated assault.
So we knew that this was actually a ruse. It was an abduction.
The clock is now ticking to find Cindy before she is hurt. Or worse. The moment Detective Callahan appears is the start of an endless nightmare for Cindy's mother.
He came to the door and I let him in, and he said, "Do you have a daughter named Cynthia Jones?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, she has been abducted." I remember looking at him saying, "What do you mean, abducted? What does that mean?" And I reached up and I touched him on his chest, almost like I just wanted him to back away from me. That's how the whole thing started, was that night.
With every minute crucial to her possible recovery, local police quickly get backup from federal law enforcement.
We opened it as a kidnapping case. An orchestrated large search with FBI agents, with Milford Police Department, Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
State police offered to bring a helicopter in, which they did. They conducted an aerial search of the entire area. We covered a lot more acreage on horseback, and then the surrounding officers on foot fanned out from there.
She was just an all-around good American girl. We were all scared. Something terrible happened to her.
We were all determined to find Cindy Jones.
Investigators believe that 15-year-old Cindy Jones has been abducted.
Freeze!
After she and boyfriend Luke
What? Come on!
were assaulted by an unknown man in Milford's local park.
This is Central Park. Back in 1992, Luke and Cindy arrived and parked at that far end. We searched this whole area right from the beginning and then came back and then lowered the river. We decided to search further into the bodies of water. We were able to lower the Huron River that runs along the southern border of the park.
We had the Oakland County Sheriff's Department dive team of about 10 or 15 guys do a complete search of the creek in their dive gear.
But even with all the resources now at their disposal, investigators can find no sign of Cindy.
We came up with no evidence that she was kept in the area or that we found anything more significant.
And even when the media releases pleas for tips, no witnesses or leads come in. Meanwhile, detectives explore a lead from Cindy's mother. The night her daughter disappeared, Alana remembers being followed by a white van.
My daughter Mary and I had gone to the store for Christmas returns. On our way home, there was a white van that kept riding my bumper. And if I sped up to get him off my bumper, he'd speed up. And if I slowed down, he would slow down. And it went on the entire length of the trip home, except that we got near the police station and I quick turned my car in. I almost hit an officer's car. I was so happy to be rid of that van, scaring us the way that it was.
When asked to speculate on who might have followed her, Alana immediately names someone.
She talked about her relationship with an ex-husband. And this ex-husband did own a white van. There was some kind of a court custody battle for one of Cindy's younger siblings.
After Alana won that recent battle, her ex-husband made a chilling threat.
He had threatened that one day I would know what it was like to not have my children. And then Cindy came up missing and taken. Luke wouldn't have known my ex-husband at all. So the police have to figure, well, then it could have been.
That was pretty strong information that he may have wanted to abduct her, to hurt her mom.
The search is now on for Alana's ex-husband, who lives 30 miles away. Detective Callahan heads out to track him down. Meanwhile, the FBI gets a tip from the state police.
I had a lead of two young men that could possibly be suspects in an abduction like this.
Greg Dolber and Justin Ferreira are petty criminals in the Milford area. Many local residents claim to have witnessed them behaving suspiciously around the time Cindy disappeared.
Lieutenant Mallett and I went to the residence.
And even before they make contact with the suspects, the agents spot a startling clue.
As I recall, Lieutenant Mallett saw a mask in the front seat of the car. And so we went and we knocked on the door. We knew that there were supposed to be two guys that were living there. One man answered the door. We asked where his roommate or friend was, and he said, oh, he wasn't there. Lieutenant Mallett and I both thought something was suspicious the way he answered there, so we asked if we could look around the house. So Lieutenant Mallett stayed with this individual, and I went in to look for the other guy.
Against time for Cindy Jones's abductor, FBI agent Jack McDonough has followed a tip-off to the home of two local criminals.
I yelled to Lieutenant Mallett that there was one hiding in here with a knife and to watch the other guy. We brought both of those guys back in for questioning to the Milford Police Department.
As police interrogate Dolber and Ferreira, they send the ski mask found in their vehicle for lab testing. Meanwhile, Detective Callahan is on the hunt for Alana's ex-husband.
Myself and another officer went down to a community about 30 miles away to interview Cindy's mom's ex-husband.
When they arrive, he is not there, but they make contact with his new wife, and she provides his alibi.
She said that he was not in the state. He was actually outside in Tennessee, so he was nowhere around.
The search of his van finds nothing of interest, and once they manage to double-check his movements, Alana's ex-husband is cleared. The lead dries up. Callahan returns to Milford and joins McDonough's interrogations of the suspects from the tip-off.
They were interviewed extensively, and they seemed to be withholding information.
Where we saw the mask in the car, they never gave any real explanation for it. The man with the knife said that he was scared. When asked scared of what, he never said what he was scared of.
In the end, they took a polygraph test, and they were alibied, so they were eliminated.
They had absolutely nothing to do with the abduction of Cindy Jones, and so they were turned loose.
With Dolber and Ferreira released with verified alibis, investigators go back to the drawing board and work the case from every angle.
The file was at least this thick. No stone was unturned as far as tips or interviews.
But as days turn into weeks with no new information, any hopes for finding Cindy Jones alive fade. Desperate for any information, Callahan and McDonough request the formation of a multi-agency task force.
Milford County Sheriff's Department, Michigan State Police, the FBI, all of those agencies, we met. I told them the whole story of Cindy Jones.
As they compare notes, a chilling realization begins to dawn on the detectives. A possible pattern of abductions, with Cindy being not the first, but the fourth teen who has vanished over the last 8 months.
We started looking for any possible way that we could try to get some kind of a link.
3 months before Cindy, 2 girls disappeared from the town of Fenton, 20 miles north of Milford. Their names are Michelle and Melissa Urban.
Michelle, she was the oldest. Melissa was the younger of the two. She was the outgoing one.
Both children are very pretty. A lot of people said that.
My sister and I and Melissa and Michelle would come down here, and we had a raft out in the middle of the lake where we could jump off of and swim back to the docks. It was such a idyllic childhood having that and getting to play out here. Melissa and Michelle were 14 and 16, kind of doing typical things that teenage girls do, starting to wear makeup and going out and meeting new people.
It was around 4 o'clock.
Mom, Dad, can we go now?
Can we go for a walk now? And I said, yeah, your dishes are done. You can go for your walk.
They both loved to walk. They'd walk for hours at a time.
But when the girls still aren't back by the early hours of the morning, Kathy and Patrick contact the police.
I called and told him what happened, and he says, we'll send someone out. He asked me questions, and I says, all I know is the route they told us.
Cops and community immediately come together to find them.
They'd had volunteers look everywhere that they could think. I even joined in the search. That was part of my release, how to help.
On that Sunday when they had left, I woke up with a strange feeling that something was going to happen.
But the Urban sisters, just like Cindy Jones, had vanished into thin air.
I think it left Fenton really shaken. It was like a great big bubble burst. I went from 12 to 20 overnight. All the things you hear that could possibly happen, it had a little bit more truth to them. I mean, it's in your own backyard, you know.
With the theory of a serial abductor gaining traction, the task force now turned their attention to a third case. 2 weeks before Melissa and Michelle went missing, a teenager disappeared from the town of South Lyon, 10 miles from Milford. Detective Clay Jansen briefs the team on the case of Cami Villanueva.
Cami was 18 when she went missing, a senior in high school, and she was kind of making that transition from a shy, reserved kind of young lady kind of to break that shell and get out and to hang out with some of her peers.
After the death of her mother a year earlier, Cami's father left the family home, and her two older sisters took charge of raising her. Cami visits the local party store, chats with friends, and then heads home at about 10 p.m.
Cami?
Her sister Trish arrived home
Cami?
at about 12:15.
Cami, are you home?
And noticed that Cami was not there, but she just thought she was out with friends late and was going to let it pass until morning, and just assumed that Cami was going to appear at home.
But when she's not back by the next morning, her sister Trish calls the police to report her missing.
No one can disappear that clean, especially in this day and age with cell phones. Somebody's going to find you. But she just vanished, for lack of any other term. She just vanished.
Detectives talk to everyone who knew her and conduct extensive searches of the area.
We had the Air National Guard come in and do an air search for us. We had about 75 or 80 volunteers fan that group out and did some very large land searches.
But their efforts find no trace of the 18-year-old. Police chase leads and tips come in. All are investigated and all go nowhere. Now, in the light of Cindy's abduction, the task force is trying to pinpoint the connections with the three other missing teens in the 20-mile area around Milford.
Generally, in these kind of cases, you will see patterns of behavior where this piece matches this piece, matches this piece. Such was not the case with these four girls.
All of us thought that there could be a connection, but the experts, specifically the FBI, and even the Michigan State Police Behavioral Science Unit, they didn't see that pattern that fit.
We brought in a profiler to analyze all the information, and he was not convinced because all the scenarios were different. Cammie was abducted from her home in the middle of the night. Cindy was abducted early evening from her car with a witness. The urban girls went out for their daily walk and were never to be seen from again. None of that fits together.
They just did not think that all of these cases were done by one individual.
The detectives are forced to give up the joint investigation of the missing teenagers and go back to chasing leads separately.
And of course, there were articles that were in the papers. What has been done, how close are you, that type of thing. And it's very frustrating because there's nothing more that we would like to have had is that one tip, that one witness. It just is something that you wish you could have an answer for, and sometimes you just don't.
But just a month later, as a young cop chases down a criminal, a lead emerges out of nowhere that stuns investigators and sets the final sequence of events into motion. 4 months after the disappearance of Cindy Jones, a report from 2 witnesses at an Oakwood cemetery 15 miles from Milford observe a disturbing event.
Over Memorial Day weekend of that spring of 1992, some witnesses saw a man approach a woman. The more that they looked, the more it was apparent to them that it was some type of an assault occurring.
The witnesses hurry from the graveyard to contact police, and luckily find a deputy just outside. As they describe what they saw, the man suddenly speeds away from the cemetery. Deputy Gary Alexander takes up the pursuit.
A chase happened for 2 miles. That suspect vehicle went around a sharp curve, lost control, and went into a He heard a sound from the car. Once the deputy did get to that trunk, there was a female inside. There was a plastic wire tie around her neck. It was very difficult for the deputy to cut it off of her so she could breathe.
The woman identifies herself as 35-year-old Carla Walters. In the car, investigators make several stunning discoveries.
There was a handgun. There was also a knife in that car, and there was a bag of these plastic wire ties.
The wire ties are from the same manufacturer as those used on Luke. Investigators now have a direct link to the abduction of Cindy Jones.
They were able to get some identification, and the driver was Leslie Allen Williams.
Leslie Williams has been in and out of institutions and prisons since the age of 8, in a pattern of being paroled and reoffending.
He had grew up in the Walled Lake area, which is a neighboring community. He'd been arrested for a number of felonies, assault, kidnapping, criminal sexual conduct, breaking and entering cases. So he was pretty much a career criminal.
And I'm going to call it like it is. He was just a dirtbag. He was just a complete street jerk.
After connecting the plastic wire ties, Callahan is impatient to see if Williams will confess to being Cindy's abductor.
Leslie Williams would just not give any information whatsoever that he had any knowledge of that disappearance. We had a 8x10 color picture of her, put it straight out in front of him. He looked down, never broke a stride in his denial.
I don't know this girl.
As soon as Williams' arraignment for the kidnapping in the cemetery hits the media, the police almost immediately get a call.
When his picture appeared on the 11 o'clock news that next night, The dispatcher advised me that she had a woman on the phone that needed to talk to me. She identified herself as an ex-girlfriend of Williams. She informed us that the year before, she had purchased a cat, a small kitten for Williams as a gift. And then a short time later, the kitten was missing, and she confronted Williams about it.
Where's George? Where's my kitten, Leslie?
And he told her, I killed the cat. I'll take you to where I buried the cat if you'd like to.
Damn right. Fine, come on.
So they went to the field where this cat was located. There was a field that she and Williams visited regularly.
So that tip from his girlfriend was very helpful because it pinpointed an exact spot we could start to search.
Callahan and his team raced to that location, 4 miles southeast of Milford, in the hope that they will find Cindy Jones.
We discovered an area that had been disturbed. The crime team slowly, methodically unearthed this area. Once they got down 2 feet or more, they found clothing. It was obvious that there was a person in there. The person that was found in that burial site was identified through dental records as being the victim that was abducted in South Lyon, Cami Villanueva.
After arresting Leslie Williams for an attempted abduction in a cemetery, police have been directed to a key location by his ex-girlfriend and have found the shallow grave of 18-year-old Cami Villanueva, who had disappeared from her home 8 months earlier. At the same time, while carrying out a search warrant at Williams's home, Detective Jansen makes a key discovery.
At that location, we found the ring that belonged to Cami. So that provided enough evidence that he, in fact, was the one that took Cami.
Armed with this find, detectives now confront Williams in custody, not about Cindy Jones, but about Cami Villanueva.
We had that ring with us when we interviewed him. You know it, we know it, and so I think at that juncture he realized that it was up and it was time for him to talk, and so he did.
I took them all.
Not only the Cami Villanueva case, but all the other cases that we've been searching for all along.
I took her too, and those 2 sisters.
He made a conscious decision that he wanted to talk and he wanted to confess to what he had done.
Over the course of the next several hours, Williams laid out in great detail for us how the abductions took place, about the way he went about killing these girls, and then ultimately what he did to dispose of the bodies.
I hid in the trees for a while.
His demeanor did not change, just talking like we're talking about the sports team or something. We maybe not have shown it, but it was getting to us, but it never got to him. Never bothered him in the least.
I served her at the store I was working at.
8 months earlier, Williams had been working at a party store and had served Cami. Then he worked out where she lived.
He said it was almost an afterthought. He drove by their road and then thought, I'll stop by the house and see who's there.
It was spur of the moment. She was alone.
Looked in the window, watched her playing cards. He said the door was unlocked, and they would grab her before she even knew he was in the house at knife point, and then literally pull her from the house. Took her to that field. He had sex with her at that point, and then ultimately strangled her.
After Williams finishes his matter-of-fact confession, he takes detectives to the final resting place of Cindy Jones, a mile west from where he buried Cammie.
He wanted to go out in a cloak of darkness to show us where he had buried her. He instructed us to stop at this location. It was kind of an old perimeter of a gravel pit.
And he stopped and he pointed down to the ground and he said, I buried her right there. And so they started digging in the place that he stated. We saw Cindy's black leather jacket. It was nothing to him. It was like burying a deer carcass or something. He didn't care. He didn't think anything of it.
5 months after Cindy's disappearance, Leslie Williams reveals the truth of her final hours.
I was hiding in the trees.
He described how he was watching this couple in Central Park from a distance in the woods, waited for the appropriate time, did this brazen approach where they were confused.
Freeze!
After walking Cindy into the woods, he takes her to his car, which he had hidden nearby.
Once in that car, he drives to an apartment that he had been renting in a suburban Detroit community. She pled with him for a long period of time about not doing anything, but he knew what he was going to do. Once he completed that assault on Cindy, he kept convincing her that he was going to let her go. So she was compliant. They drove back to Milford. He told Cindy, I'll drop you off at your house, but I don't want you to get out and scream.
Williams convinces his victim they will stop briefly to tie and gag her.
Shh. It's gonna be okay. Put your hands up. Okay. Alright. You're gonna be fine, okay?
Okay. Said I'd let her go, but I couldn't afford to do that.
But once out of the car, he makes sure Cindy will never become a witness.
He pulled his knife and stabbed Cindy once in the chest.
Lieutenant Mallet called me home. It was early morning, and he said that they had found Cindy and that she was dead. Well, closure is a big word. There hasn't been. People think closure like you just shut a book. It's not that way at all.
Williams then takes investigators to the bodies of Melissa and Michelle Urban. For their parents, 7 months of not knowing is finally over.
It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I opened the door and he says, can you get your husband? I'm not going to say anything until he comes out. I knew what he was there for. He says, we've had a confession.
The last of Williams's revelations are the details of the final hours of the Urban sisters.
I'd seen him around.
He told us that he'd been stalking them for a couple of weeks. Knew that they liked to go for a walk together. They were always together.
Don't scream.
After leaping out with a knife,
come on,
Williams raped the sisters.
Come on, let's go.
One after another, then strangled them.
He subdued one. He took one a distance from the other sister, killed her, came back and then killed the second sister.
He buried him with a blanket on him. And I thought, at least we can close that part. At least we have him, we can bury him. It was like the weight of the world was taken off my shoulders. I knew where my girls were now. I knew they were honest. They went the direction they said they were going.
Hard to imagine what goes on a parent's mind with your children. Your children are missing. I'm sorry.
On June 1st, 1992, all 4 girls are buried in their respective hometowns.
I'd always called church God's house, and I told the kids we were going to God's house with Cindy. Elizabeth, one of her sisters, young at the time, misinterpreted that we were going to go there and meet Cindy. The pallbearers came up to walk Cindy out of the church. And Elizabeth looked at me and said, "Can Cindy come out of the box now?" I said, "Honey, Cindy is not coming out of the box. Cindy is with God." That child let off with the worst scream. I never want to hear a scream like that again in my life.
He has confessed, and now Leslie Allen Williams is in the court's eyes.
Leslie Allen Williams pleads guilty to the murder of Cindy, Cammie, Michelle, and Melissa.
One by one, Williams acknowledged the vicious acts, even though
he is sentenced to life in prison.
he wanted a psychiatric exam.
I've never been in contact with somebody that's been so evil. He would have never stopped. If he wouldn't have been caught, he would have continued to do that.
The word closure I don't agree with, because you can never get closure when you lose a loved one. Never should have happened. I don't know how it can ever stop.
In our hearts, it's not going to be over. I am glad that he's been brought to justice.
I was angry. I would have wanted him put to death. And it's not like me to feel that way.
I think Leslie Allen Williams represents a failure of the entire criminal justice system, particularly the parole system. Leslie Allen Williams never should have been on the street.
From the time he committed his very first crime at the age of 14, he never went longer than 4 months without violating his probation or his parole.
This man is a serial rapist, and he vows that if he ever gets out of prison, he will rape and kill again. Right, Leslie?
That's correct.